Suddenly, the fingers of a human hand emerged and began writing opposite the lampstand on the plaster of the wall of the king's palace. And the king saw the back of the hand that did the writing. Then the king's face became pale and his thoughts alarmed, and his hip joints loosened, and his knees began knocking together. The king called aloud to bring in the sorcerers, the Chaldeans, and the diviners. The king began speaking and said to the wise men of Babylon, "Anyone who can read this inscription and explain its interpretation to me shall be clothed with purple and have a necklace of gold around his neck and have authority as third ruler in the kingdom." Then all the king's wise men came in, but they could not read the inscription or make known its interpretation to the king. Then King Belshazzar was greatly alarmed, his face grew even more pale, and his nobles were perplexed. The queen entered the banquet hall because of the words of the king and his nobles. The queen began to speak and said, "O king, live forever. Do not let your thoughts alarm you or your face be pale. There is a man in your kingdom in whom is a spirit of the holy gods, and in the days of your father, illumination, insight, and wisdom like the wisdom of the gods were found in him. And King Nebuchadnezzar, your father the king, appointed him chief of the soothsayer priests, sorcerers, Chaldeans, and diviners. And this was because an extraordinary spirit, knowledge and insight, interpretation of dreams, explanation of riddles, and solving of difficult problems were found in this Daniel, whom the king named Belteshazzar. Let Daniel now be summoned, and he will declare the interpretation." All right, so pretty quickly after this blasphemy occurs, this hand appears. It looks like a human hand. It says it emerges, which is like out of the ether, out of nothing.
Yeah, it just kind of appears and it's floating there. Yeah.
And it writes on the wall with its finger, and the king is like behind it. He could see it writing like this, right? And so that is where we get this expression, the writing is on the wall.
Right.
Right. And now what we attribute, like how we use that expression will be determined by the interpretation here.
Yeah.
But the king is terrified. And I love the description because it's like a cartoon where his legs are shaking so bad and his knees are knocking together.
Yeah.
Right? It's like Scooby-Doo.
You did. You see, he runs out, his legs spin all and he spin together. And
Exactly. Now, he doesn't know what is being written and what it says, but regardless, this should terrify anyone who sees it.
A big hand comes out of nowhere and starts writing on the wall. I'd be kind of freaked out too.
Even if it put a smiley face up there, you'd be freaked out. This is a big deal. So he surely sees this as not a good omen. Also, keep in mind he's been drinking, so that might be affecting him as well.
Yeah.
He does realize that he just disrespected the God of Israel, or maybe he does, maybe he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So he calls for the wise men. He does the same thing that Nebuchadnezzar does, is he calls for all of the normal people. He doesn't call for the one who's given actual answers all these years.
Yeah.
Right? And he promises that he's going to elevate them. And it says he's going to give them the third place in the kingdom. And the reason for this is King Belshazzar is actually the second king. He's in subordination to the first king, Nabonidus. Okay? So this is something we understand about history, but we see like he's like a sub-king under the king, right?
Yeah.
So the king is off doing kingly things, and he's over here kind of just living in unearned honor.
Right.
Doing his own thing.
While dad's away, the kids will play.
Right, exactly. All right. So that's why he is offering the third place. He's going to make him the next greatest person in all the kingdom behind himself.
Yeah.
Right. So the queen comes in, and now this queen could be either his wife or it could be his mother. So it doesn't determine that for us. I tend to think that this is going to be his mother, right? Mm-hmm. Because she's aware of Daniel.
Yeah.
And what Daniel has done.
Yep. She's been around. Yeah.
And she wants, she kind of comes in like, I'm going to take care of you and we're going to get you the right answers, right? Yeah. So she even respects Daniel by calling him his actual name and indicates that the name that the king gave him was not his name, right? And then says, call Daniel. If we find Daniel, Daniel can figure this out because he has, as Nebuchadnezzar had originally said, he has this Holy Spirit of the gods in him without still understanding or recognizing that it is the Spirit of the God that is giving him these answers.
Yeah, nobody is getting it except Daniel. Yeah, all the kings, the queen, all the other people, all the other soothsayers and all these people, they're seeing all this stuff and they still don't quite get it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so then we get to verses 13 through 16. Then Daniel was brought in before the king. The king began speaking and said to Daniel, "Are you that Daniel who is one of the exiles from Judah, whom my father the king brought from Judah? Now I have heard about you that a spirit of the gods is in you, and that illumination, insight, and extraordinary wisdom have been found in you. Just now, the wise men and the sorcerers were brought in before me to read this inscription and make its interpretation known to me. But they could not declare the interpretation of the message. But I personally have heard about you, that you are able to give interpretations and solve difficult problems. Now, if you are able to read the inscription and make its interpretation known to me, you will be clothed with purple and wear a necklace of gold around your neck, and you will be given authority as the third ruler of the kingdom." Right? All right. So I'm going to stop there just for a moment here. So the king brings Daniel in. It's like, look, I heard about you. I know that you've done this before, so do this, and I'm going to give you these rewards, right? And I think it's interesting, like when we look at like these wise men, they can't figure it out, right? They can't. None of them can do this. They can't do this by their own conventional means, and they continually tell the king these things can't be done, right? We keep seeing that over and over. The conventional wisdom, the conventional spiritualism doesn't work, right? And they even try to bring Daniel's friends to ruin, and to no avail. But nobody can understand, as we keep saying, nobody can understand. They keep saying, look, as God is doing this, right? And like, I'm even wondering as I read this, how does this guy not know what Nebuchadnezzar went through?
Yeah, I mean, you would think that again, he's not going to Daniel first, even though the king held Daniel in such high regard and he did all of these things. Even on down the generations, Daniel is still looked at as he's a good guy, but he's not. He doesn't have a place of honor in or one of the first people that the king goes to.
Yeah.
In fact, he has. You don't even. It's obviously the king or the queen explains to him there is a man who does that. So you wonder, is this the first time he's hearing of him, or is she just reminding him?
Yeah. I think this is a really good point. And so he says, well, I have heard of you. So we don't know if it's like, I just heard of you from the queen.
Right.
Or did he actually had he actually heard? And I think we're going to get an answer to that here in a minute. But I think like one of the things that really stands out to me about this is you can't really understand what God is doing if you refuse to make God God.
Yeah.
Right? If you choose not to serve God, you're not going to understand what he's doing. You're not going to understand his word. You're not going to get it because you don't have a relationship with him. Yeah. You're going to continue to try to look at everything he does with your own filter and with your own wisdom, and you're going to continue to be confounded.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what keeps happening here in Babylon.